What if the person who connects others to the afterlife is quietly fighting his own battles in the shadows? Tyler Henry may be known to millions as Hollywood's go-to medium, but the world rarely sees the storm behind his calm voice and comforting messages. While viewers admire his gift and the peace he brings to grieving families, Tyler has been carrying a weight that fame can't lighten, a weight made of illness, loneliness, and emotional wounds that never truly heal. As his abilities grew, so did the pressure. Suddenly, a young man who was supposed to guide others through their pain found himself drowning in his own. Health struggles began to follow him, moments of deep isolation crept in, and the sting of skepticism and rejection made every step heavier. Behind every message he delivers is a story of personal sacrifice that most fans will never hear about. But what happens when the very gift that comforts thousands becomes the source of someone's greatest heartache? Tyler's journey reveals a reality that challenges everything people believe about celebrity mediums. His path is not just extraordinary, it is a reminder that even those who speak to the dead carry burdens that threaten to break the living. Early psychic awakening. Tyler Henry's journey into the supernatural didn't start with bright lights or dramatic moments. It began quietly, when he was only about 10 years old. At an age when most kids are still learning who they are, Tyler suddenly found himself facing something far bigger than childhood questions. His very first psychic experience came when he predicted his grandmother's death, a moment that would change everything for him. At the time, Tyler didn't think he had a special gift. He didn't even understand what was happening. All he knew was that he felt something he couldn't explain. And when his father told him the news about his grandmother, his whole world felt shaken. There was no guide, no mentor, and no comforting explanation to help him make sense of it all. That single moment opened a door into a strange new world, one filled with feelings, messages, and sensations far beyond any 10-year-old could understand. Instead of giving him clarity, this experience only left him with questions. It marked the beginning of an inner struggle he wasn't ready for, a journey filled with uncertainty and emotional weight. As his abilities slowly grew stronger, Tyler found it harder to fit into the normal life around him. His psychic moments created a quiet distance between him and his friends, a space he couldn't close no matter how hard he tried. The gift that made him unique also made him feel alone, leaving him caught between childhood innocence and a responsibility he never asked for. While other kids his age were discovering their interests, Tyler was trying to make sense of a hidden world only he could feel. The strange messages and emotions he picked up planted early seeds of confusion and loneliness, feelings that would follow him into his teenage years. What looked like an extraordinary ability from the outside didn't bring him peace or happiness. Instead, it left him with a burden he carried in silence. His grandmother's death became a turning point that stayed with him. It showed him that his ability wasn't a game or a small curiosity. It was deeply tied to real loss and real grief. This emotional shock echoed through him, and it would continue to shape the way he saw himself and his gift. Even though he was young, he began to understand that his life would never be simple. Tyler's sudden awakening marked the start of a life filled with emotional challenges, tough questions, and moments that set him apart from almost everyone around him. The more he tried to understand his ability, the more he realized how different he was, and how difficult that difference could be. What began as a confusing childhood experience would eventually unfold into a long, complicated path that tested his strength again and again. And as he stepped forward, leaving behind the first shock of his abilities, Tyler soon discovered another painful truth. Not everyone would accept the gift that shaped his life. Isolation and community rejection. Growing up, Tyler Henry didn't just face curiosity. He walked through a world filled with suspicion and fear. Most people didn't understand him, and that made it hard for him to feel like he truly belonged anywhere. His religious upbringing only made things more complicated. Some people believed his strange experiences were a blessing, while others treated them as something dark or dangerous, refusing to accept what he could do. This clash of beliefs created even more pressure for Tyler. He wasn't just dealing with personal confusion, he was also fighting against the judgment of an entire community. In many interviews, Tyler has opened up about how tough middle school was. That was the time when he was trying to make sense of his abilities while also realizing how different he was from everyone else around him. Trying to accept himself while others pushed him away left him feeling lonely and out of place. His experience mirrors what many people go through when they're rejected for being different. Unfortunately, high school didn't make things easier. The same doubts, rumors, and misunderstandings followed him, and the environment that raised him often turned cold because his gift didn't fit their idea of normal. This left him standing on the outside looking in, deepening the emotional distance created by his connection to the spiritual world. His loneliness wasn't just about being excluded, it also stirred up a battle within himself. Being judged by the very people he cared about, especially in a religious community, made him question what his abilities really meant and where he belonged. The struggle between faith, fear, and acceptance created a complicated emotional storm that he had to face without much support. Yet through all of this, Tyler later said that learning to accept himself was the most important journey he ever took, one he's still on today. He realized that many people understand what it feels like to be different, but true acceptance only happens when you face your fears head-on. That realization didn't come easily. It was shaped by years of pain, rejection, and confusion, but it became the foundation for everything he would achieve. His early isolation became a powerful part of his story, especially when compared to the huge public platform he would eventually step onto. The same boy who people once misunderstood and even feared would later become someone millions looked to for comfort. This contrast, the quiet suffering at home and the bright success in public, is one of the most defining parts of Tyler's life. His loneliness wasn't just a phase, it came directly from the extraordinary nature of his abilities. The rejection he faced early on created emotional wounds that would shape how he handled fame, criticism, and even his mental health later on. The cost of being different was clear long before his name reached the spotlight. His strength grew from that painful isolation, but also a deep sense of vulnerability. Both sides of those early experiences shaped how he sees his gift and how he deals with the world's reaction to it. The challenges he faced in his neighborhood were only the beginning, hinting at even harder battles waiting for him as an adult. Tyler's difficult relationship with his community was just one part of his journey. Beneath all of that were serious health struggles that tested him in ways no one could have imagined. Health struggles and near-death experiences. Tyler's life has been shaped not only by his psychic gifts, but also by constant health problems that began long before anyone knew his name. Born 3 months early, he started life fighting for survival, and those early risks followed him into young adulthood. Over the years, he went through emergency surgeries and terrifying brushes with death, adding even more difficulty to his already unusual path. One of the most frightening moments came just after his 18th birthday. Tyler was rushed to the hospital and diagnosed with hydrocephalus caused by an arachnoid brain cyst, a condition that threatened his life and changed everything for him. The cyst had blocked the flow of fluid in his brain, building dangerous pressure inside his skull and putting his life at serious risk. Doctors had no choice but to perform an emergency brain surgery. Even though Tyler recovered faster than anyone expected, the experience reminded him just how fragile his body really was. Then in May 2025, he shared that he had to go through yet another brain operation, this time to remove a colloid cyst deep in the center of his brain. This wasn't the first time he'd been on an operating table, and Tyler showed his tough spirit when he joked that it was not my first rodeo. Even with these repeated medical scares, he stayed grateful and focused, assuring his fans he would be back soon with new readings and messages. But his head wasn't the only part of his body under attack. His lungs had also suffered serious problems. Back in late 2019, just before the pandemic spread worldwide, Tyler's lung suddenly collapsed. He needed emergency surgery and spent 3 long weeks in the hospital. During his recovery, doctors discovered that his lungs were badly damaged, filled with multiple air leaks that made it extremely hard for them to reinflate. The situation changed his life completely. Tyler believes COVID-19 may have been the cause, because he and his family had all fallen sick in a way none of them had ever experienced before. Facing one emergency after another forced Tyler to slow down and pay close attention to how he lived. He had to accept that even with his unusual abilities, his physical body was fragile. These medical struggles often collided with emotional and mental challenges, making it even harder to balance his public life with the private battles happening behind closed doors. Still, his determination to keep going showed a level of courage that inspired many people watching his journey. These experiences didn't just affect his health, they changed the way he viewed life, death, and the thin line between them. Being confronted with mortality at such a young age gave him a different outlook, one that shaped both his psychic work and his personal path. Instead of pulling back, his brush with death pushed him to search for deeper meaning and purpose in everything he did. Even with all the difficulties, Tyler kept moving forward. He embraced the unusual path he had chosen and the responsibilities that came with fame. His health battles added depth to his story, reminding everyone that the man behind the readings was a real human being, dealing with pain and vulnerability just like anyone else. These challenges would later reveal the heartbreak and strength hidden beneath his mediumship. The effects of his health struggles continued to influence how he handled the demands of both the spiritual world and the physical one. As his journey unfolded, it became clear that these hardships were key to understanding the emotional and mental pressure he lived with, caught between 2 very different realities. With a childhood marked by psychic awakening, loneliness, and life-threatening medical issues, Tyler's path was already difficult, but the challenges shaping his life were far from over. Public scrutiny and skepticism. Tyler Henry's rise as a Hollywood medium brought a mix of fascination and controversy. From day one, people argued about whether his abilities were real or simply an act. As the youngest well-known medium to step into mainstream entertainment, he quickly grabbed attention with his calm manner and emotional readings that often left clients and celebrities in tears. But fame always invites doubt. Some critics accused him of taking advantage of people's grief, claiming his career depended more on their vulnerability than on any supernatural connection. The debate grew even louder after Netflix released Life After Death with Tyler Henry, which followed him across the country as he gave readings and faced shocking discoveries about his own family history. Online critics, especially on places like Reddit, began insisting that Tyler's psychic abilities were nothing more than a carefully crafted act built for attention and profit. Instead of seeing him as a real medium, many believed he was simply a sharp observer who could read emotions and turn them into convincing stories. Their doubts grew stronger when publications like Skeptical Inquirer questioned his Live from the Other Side tour, claiming his readings came from advanced research and hot readings rather than true spiritual gifts. They argued that Tyler used emotional storytelling and confirmation bias, where people naturally focus on what supports what they already want to believe, to give the impression of speaking to the dead. These accusations created a confusing space where people struggled to decide if he was an entertainer or a genuine medium. But instead of hiding from this criticism, Tyler chose to face it openly. During a 2018 interview with Larry King, he explained that he never expected everyone to believe in what he does. Even when he was a teenager, he knew his path lived somewhere between faith and skepticism, between science and the unseen. He even said skepticism is healthy, making it clear that he saw disbelief as an important part of the conversation. His calm way of handling criticism eventually set him apart from others who might have reacted defensively. As time passed, Tyler began viewing skepticism not just as a challenge, but as something that pushed him forward. He often explained that people doubt because they're uncomfortable with the unknown, because they want proof in places where proof doesn't exist. This honest acceptance of uncertainty turned him into a symbol of modern spirituality, a time when technology rules everything, yet people still search deeply for meaning. Ironically, the same doubts that try to undermine him have also helped keep him relevant. Every article questioning him, every debate about his abilities keeps both his name and the larger conversation about belief alive. Whether his critics notice or not, their constant challenges continue to fuel public curiosity. Still, behind all the cameras and attention, Tyler is simply a young man carrying both compassion and fatigue. His work centers on other people's grief, but his own pain quietly follows him. Behind all the fame, controversy, and spiritual attention is a very human struggle. Trying to live in two worlds at once, one that everyone sees and another that only he experiences. The true weight of Tyler's gift became clear through the grief and emotional strain he has faced, especially when he lost people he loved. Despite his ability to connect with the dead, he has never been protected from heartbreak. One of the deepest wounds came from losing his close friend and first love, Terry, who passed away from brain cancer. Tyler sensed Terry's fate long before it happened, but knowing didn't make it easier. If anything, it made it unbearable. He has admitted that he pulled away from Terry before the end because he couldn't handle what he knew was coming, and the guilt of that choice still follows him. This painful chapter shows the emotional price of Tyler's abilities. Even if he can feel the presence of those who have passed on, he is still deeply affected by real human grief. Living between the physical world and the spiritual one means he carries not only the pain of others, but also the heavy weight of his own emotions, often blurring the line between deep empathy and complete exhaustion. Tyler has also carried heavy personal struggles, especially when it comes to understanding himself. Coming out as gay wasn't one big moment, it was a long, painful journey. He often says he came out 20 times because people around him, including some family members, struggled to accept it. As fame grew and grief followed him, the pressure of being honest about who he is became even harder. He spent years giving others comfort while rarely finding the space to comfort himself. In many ways, Tyler's life is filled with deep contradictions. His abilities allow him to connect with the afterlife, yet that same connection makes living in the real world more difficult. Behind the calm face people see on TV is someone shaped by love, heartbreak, and the heavy burden of knowing more than most people ever will. As he moves forward, his story will continue to show how he keeps going through emotional storms that many never see, and the quiet coping skills he uses to survive them. Tyler Henry lives in two different worlds, the spiritual realm he taps into for others and the physical world he has to navigate for himself. His gift brings comfort to thousands, but it also drains him in ways most can't imagine. The line between work and his personal emotions often becomes blurred, making it hard to separate what he feels from what he receives. To protect his mind, Tyler sets strict emotional boundaries. He tries to separate his own life from the painful stories he encounters every day. Without that mental wall, he says he would end up carrying the weight of countless sorrows. But even with boundaries, the connection never truly disappears. He can only turn it up or tune it out, living with a constant sense of spiritual noise that affects both his mental and emotional well-being. Even though he brings healing to others, peace doesn't always come easily to him. That vulnerability became even clearer when a DNA test on his Netflix show Life After Death with Tyler Henry uncovered a shocking truth. The woman who raised his mother wasn't her biological mother at all. She was actually an abusive criminal serving life sentences for killing her. What surprised Tyler even more was that he never sensed the presence of his real grandmother, a sharp contrast to the many spirits he connects with for others. Still, he chooses to face these revelations with honesty and compassion. By sharing his struggles with isolation, mental health, and emotional exhaustion, he challenges the idea that mediums are untouched by pain. In the end, Tyler Henry's story is one of endurance and heart. It reminds us that even people who guide others through loss are still learning how to heal themselves. His journey shows the courage it takes to live with an extraordinary gift while facing deep personal challenges.